into this video. Now, we're going to talk about the Ball Lightning Mona Archmage build and whether it's actually worth it amongst the sort of builds that you should play or not. Now, we'll have a look at some of the stuff. If we go to this is the pretty much very basic. Over here is a different build, so over here. This is very basic stuff. The upgrades from here is where it becomes a little extreme. So we got a pretty much a 2 div for something that has a low 50% increase in cost, and you do need it as close to 50 as possible. The Astronomus Mentis is not essential, but it pretty much, you need it for the stat boosts and all that. Otherwise, you need a really good amulet that is boosting your stats that this coil can buff. And this is a lower rolled one, as you can see. The Ivory Tower is must have as well. It goes with this shield because you are reserving life instead, and the reservation efficiency is what allows you to actually run the auras to make yourself low life, and this adds 30 energy shield per 100 reserved life. So these two are required, and obviously you can't do a Molnia, however you say, build without it, the hammer. This 100 chaos to a div, depending on whether you can get one cheap or not. These are fairly cheap gloves, but you can pick them up from just doing Shaper if you have the capability of doing Shaper and then turn into this build. But yeah, Shaper gloves, cheap. These gems are required to have the mana and the stats. This cluster is where the damage starts going. This isn't the optimal split personality, but this is the type of jewel you want to look for, and healthy mind is quite important as well. So that's just basic. This is cost me 3.5, 4 div for all this. Now, this would have cost me a little bit, but I actually corrupted jewels, and one of them was a healthy mind. So this is just basic, and it's going to cost you about 4 div for about 3 to 4 million DPS with not much survivability. Now, the problem comes, is this a good build regardless of the cost, or is a good build something that sort of exceeds the cost that you're putting into it? So all the costs here is just to go to 30, 40 million DPS, which yes is awesome, but we'll have a look at some of the prices of the bare minimum stuff, and you can work out for yourself whether you would consider it a good one or not. We need 2 of these rings, so that's 2.5 div for these rings each, and so we're at 5 div just for a ring upgrade. This is 1 div. The shield, you can stick with the other shield and change this last. It will help with resistances and stuff, but it's another div. Ignore this one. This one is obviously priced wrong. You might be able to get a cheap one like this. They are coming down. They were way more expensive for attribute bits, so it might actually become cheaper to play this build further into the league. But yeah, you're looking for at least a div for the amulet, so we're at 7 div so far. But then we get to a belt. This belt costs around 9, 10 div to upgrade the belt. And if you change your amulet, you need to change your belt as well, pretty much. So you pretty much change them over at the same time. So we're at 15 div. No, wait. No, we're not. We're at 5, 6, 7. So we're at 16 div for the belt. And then we go to the jewels. These split personalities, you need 2 of them. These are the optimal ones. I got one that was, I want to say like 50 chaos because it had the mana bit. But the strength int will cost you 13 to 14 div, depending on obviously how many is on the market at the time. So now we're at, let's say, 30 div. The Watcher's Eye you need is at cheapest a div, but that's probably mispriced and probably want to sell it right now, whereas you're probably paying more towards 2 div. And then the clusters, you need 2 of these. They cost 80 plus. So we're at, let's round it up to like 32 div. And these vary in price, but you're looking at around 80 plus for each jewel, and you need 5 of them. So if we go, let's say half a div, so you need 5, so 2.5 div for the jewels. So we're looking at about 35 div just to go to the next stage of it. And then your, depending on your rolls and everything, you should be able to do, at when you're like full ramped, you do 30 to 40 million DPS. Now, we're looking at 30 to 40 div to increase our damage by 30 to 40 million. If we just use, I'll put this back on so I don't forget. But if we look at something like this is the Ice Spear guy. I've just changed over, like within the last 12 hours. Changed over and I haven't played much with the guy. But we look at this stuff all here, because with this, the resistances are 61% of it, and we have a look, I'm res cap, but have a look without it. I'm over 200 res with all of them. So it does take a little bit of searching for these, but I didn't pay over 20C for any of the res gear. This was cheap, I think about 100C. 6 link, you're going towards the 2-3 div because the price of 6 linking things is around that price. This stuff was about 100C. So we're looking at, let's round it up to 2 div with all the stuff. So 2 div for pretty much like 5 to 10 mil damage, depending on gem levels and clusters and all that. Because we have a look, you need medium clusters with eye to eye and repeater, and you need essential echo in another one, but I crafted this myself, so I saved myself some currency there. And then prismatic heart to give you resistance and some extra damage throughout these nodes. Now, this cost, to do the same on the other, it costs half the amount of currency to get this guy set up for the same or more damage. Now, I'm not saying the other build is bad. If you have the currency to put in it and the ability to do it all, then the damage makes it a decent build to do content. But does that make it a good build because you do damage even though it costs you a fortune? Or is a good build in a more good build for people to play, not just, oh, this does 1 billion damage, that's a good build. And it might cost you 5 mirrors, but that doesn't necessarily make it a good build in my mind. In difference, the next upgrades for this guy is pretty much a, well, the Sublime Vision's like 3 div. That will stop me getting cursed. I don't need it. It helps with survivability, but I don't need it. So that's an upgrade that I don't need to progress, which is a bonus in my eyes. If I had better resistances, I could technically actually run, if we have a look at this, I could actually run this Mind Spiral to get more survivability. This is a cheap unique. We do have the Heat Shiver that is the recommended somewhere. I hope I didn't get rid of it. Oh, here it is. Got the Heat Shiver, which is the recommended unique. It gives you extra damage throughout the cold damage conversion into more damage thing. So fairly cheap unique, very cheap unique. Don't need either, but you can, and we have a look, 838 to 1200 energy shield, which is a lot more survivability. If I had the res, I'd be able to do that. But, and then it doesn't necessarily convert all the damage because it's damage after the fact, and when you're in combat, that actually this build takes off, and it's 5 times the single damage because you got 5 totems. So as you can see, 5 of them out, they do, at this point, because my gem levels aren't leveled up fully, about 7 to 800k per totem for half the price of the, and with ramped, with everything ramped, it does about 10 mil. So the other build cost me around 3.5 to 4 div. There are mandatory items that you need, which you can't swap out. You can't find alternatives. And then on top of that, the upgrades are mandatory upgrades because that's what stacks the build and everything. Whereas this, there isn't necessarily mandatory upgrades. There are upgrades which you can do. The only mandatory thing about this is the Soul Mantle and the Annihilating Light and the Anathema. That's the only 3 items that you need. This actually is very important, so if you do it, buy this ring. You can get without this as you get up to it, but these 2 items you need to get as soon as possible, just in case you were worrying about it. But yeah, so we have, go away. So we have the contrast of a build that does a lot of damage, and it's fairly cheap to get to that damage, and then you can spend currency to make it better. On the other hand, we have the Ball Lightning Hammer, which you need certain gear, certain setup, certain stat levels, certain breakpoints on your casting, your this. If you go over, you lose half your damage. You go under, you lose half the damage. You have so much, and it costs so much, that I don't think it's a good build for the average player to play. Now, if it's your style, you've been playing for years, then you'll probably be able to get it quicker and better for less than the just general player that's decided to go play it. But yeah, I don't think a div per million damage on average, which what it pretty much works out. It's you're spending a div for damage, and up until you get to about 30 to 60 million, you're spending around 30 to 60 divines minimum to get to that level. Now that's minimum. the if you want good rolls, if you want the best in slot type stuff, then you're looking at it costing more than the damage output. So let me know what you think, but I do recommend someone play it if they have the currency and want to do that. It fairly fun spinning around and destroying everything. The survivability is one of the aspects where you have to invest into actually getting. You can't just go, oh well, I'll fix it later. You have to invest in doing that, and you also have very low life. So if you don't have any way of resolving degens, one no, I clicked on stash. Thank you. One mandatory thing fairly early is this. It allows you to take chaos damage through your energy shield and not your life, because pretty much any chaos damage will kill you if you're not chaos resed and have that flask, because any chaos degen will go straight to your life. You'll die within a second, and the chaos damage then just burns through your energy shield and then obviously your life. Once you get chaos res, you got a little bit more survivability, but the actual ailment stuff does kill you quickly. So there is 50 billion things you need to get right, 50 billion things you need to buy to actually get the build to where it needs to go, versus something that doesn't. Like, I'm not saying this is the alternative. It is a build which I have found to be like complete contrast. Good damage for low cost. You can change out most of your gear. You don't need items straight away. They are preferable, they're not required. But yeah, let me know what you think about it, and whether you think a build is good because it does high damage numbers, regardless of the cost, or a good build is something that you can get to a point with certain items, and those certain items are just whatever they cost that league, and then upgrades to your character as you feel, and you can buy them whenever. You don't need to go, well, I can't go past T16s, or I have to do easy T16s because I don't have the currency to actually go further. Or push that extra content. Yes, you might die a couple of times, but you can do the content, and it's more up to you whether you survive or not. Not you can't do the content because those content have XYZ in it, and I can't do it. But yeah, let me know what you think, and I'm going to further investigate this old guy. We're level 91 at the moment. Getting it online, I've actually had a hard time trying to level this guy because I'm used to playing builds that run into things, not set up totems. Totems do damage, and then you go another totem, or a big rare, set that up, you do your brand and cold snap, all that. But I've added Arcane Cloak as well for the extra defensive capabilities of this. And as I showed, you can add in the Mind Spiral, which is a cheap unique to get more energy shield if you've got your reses fixed up to the point where you can run it. Or earlier on, before you switch to this, you can, if you still got normal weapons, you can have these weapons and a Mind Spiral. Your defenses are up. You're still doing good damage. This just increases the amount of damage, obviously, based on the... It's pretty much a damage stick. And the downside to that is you need 61% more resistances to actually get capped. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time, and goodbye.